Chair recognizes the gentleman from New Jersey.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. And I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days in which to revise and to extend their remarks and include extraneous material on H.R. 6365.
Without objection.
So at this time, Mr. Speaker, I yield to myself 3.5 minutes.
The gentleman is recognized for 3.5 minutes. The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you. Speaker, under current law, there will be a $110 billion across-the-board cuts. It's known as sequester. It will be imposed on this country on January 2nd, 2013, resulting in a 10% reduction in the Department of Defense programs and an 8% reduction in certain domestic programs as well. In May of this year, the House passed a bill to deal with this. That was the 5652, the Sequester Replacement Reconciliation Act. Now, what this legislation would do, it would replace that sequester for 2013 with common sense spending cuts and reforms. Unfortunately, we have seen a lack of leadership both over in the Senate and in the White House. The Senate has failed to act on this legislation. The Senate, where all good bills go to die, so too with this, or on any sequester replacement bill. So today, the House will once again try to responsibly fix this sequester. The National Security and Job Protection Act would ensure our national security, but at the same time we do that, we'll cut spending. The National Security and Job Protection Act would do 2 things quickly. First, it would turn off the sequester if Congress enacted the House-passed reconciliation bill or similar legislation that achieves equal levels of deficit reduction. Secondly, the National Security and Job Protection bill would require that the President of the United States to submit to Congress a legislative proposal to replace the sequester with an alternative no later than October 15th of this year. Up until this point, we have seen absolutely no leadership. We have seen no plan from the President to fix this sequester problem. But yet there's strong bipartisan agreement that the sequester, as it is right now, is bad policy and should be reprioritized. Once again, the President has failed to lead in this area, failed to put forward a credible response, failed to put a legislative proposal, and the Senate has failed as well. The result is that in less than 100 days, we will see reductions that our own very Secretary Panetta says will hollow out our armed forces and make totally arbitrary reductions in other spending programs. Not only has the President failed to lead in this area, he has failed to put forward a plan, but the President has also failed, and this is important, to submit to Congress a report, as law requires him to do so, detailing specifically how this administration would implement the sequester. Mr. Speaker, after months, literally months of stonewalling Congress on how this administration would implement the sequester, Congress now comes to the floor because we are forced to pass legislation requiring the President to submit a detailed sequester implementation program. And when that legislation became law, as we said, the President's response has been no response. Rather than him doing his homework, the President has simply taken a pass on this matter and instead has provided Congress with nothing and not in meeting the requirements of the law. It is an example, I think to use the President's own word, of an incomplete by this President on his report card. The President lacks leadership is simply stunning to this member and to the American people as well. As I say, the Senate is no better for failing to respond in this matter as well. The Senate refuses to take up any bill or to replace the sequester whatsoever. So today, Mr. Speaker, we again come here, passing legislation to try to solve this problem, to fix the sequester, to make sure that these draconian cuts do not go in place now. We're not saying that it has to be the House-passed bill that passed. We're also asking the President to put forward his own legislative proposal for the Senate to act before the legislation takes effect. The American looks for leadership, and they are getting it from the House of Representatives today. With that, I yield back.